Ladies and gentlemen, the question we grapple with here today is not whether to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, but how. Picture this. When former President Bush took office, Iran had no centrifuges that were spent to enrich uranium. Under the current administration, Iran has thousands of centrifuges. Iran's current program has a breakout time less than a month, no access to inspections, and no limits on plutonium. The end result, a nuclear weaponized Iran. Keep in mind, unilateral US sanctions against Iran have been in place for decades, but have failed to pressure Iran to the negotiation table. With the support of the UN Security Council's resolutions and nations like China, India, Japan, South Korea, the world purchase of Iranian oil has decreased dramatically thanks to sanctions. While these sanctions brought Iran to the negotiation table, it is only a temporary fix. The long-term solution comes in the form of the Iran nuclear deal. Bottom line, Iran's nuclear program is active, and this deal stops them from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon.
President Ronald Reagan once quoted a Russian proverb that said, "Trust but verify." With the Iran deal, is there truly a comprehensive and transparent way to verify intentions and enforcement for over 15 years? Under the deal, Iran has agreed to severely limit its ability to produce a nuclear weapon, pledging to cut down its number of working centrifuges to 5,000 and reduce its share of low-enriched uranium. Ladies and gentlemen, let us look back and see if Iran has complied to past agreements. Iran became a member of the International Maritime Organization, an organization intended to ensure the security, safety, and environmental performance of international shipping. But despite its membership in the IMO, Iran has circumvented international sanctions by pursuing the deceptive practice of renaming and re-domiciling ships, as well as dangerously shutting off ship transponders in violation of maritime law. Should we really be trusting this country with a deal that has billions of dollars and sensitive military equipment at hand? The answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, is very simple: no.
This deal is not one of trust, it's one of verification. Under the terms of the Iran nuclear deal, Iran is never allowed to build a nuclear weapon. And while Iran, like any party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, is allowed to access peaceful nuclear energy, the agreement strictly defines the manner in which its nuclear program can proceed, ensuring all the pathways to a bomb are cut off. Inspectors will get the access they need when and where they need it, and Iran's nuclear facilities will be monitored 24/7, and no site will be off limits from inspectors. Iran will get rid of 98% of its stockpile of enriched uranium, which is currently enough for up to 10 bombs for the next 15 years.
Our biggest Middle Eastern ally, Saudi Arabia, believes that this context of increasing Iranian influence that thrives on weak central governments and sectarian instability, as seen in Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen, is what ISIL capitalizes on its recruitment drive, and something that Iran could do too, and cause great collateral damage to the entire world. And think, right from the year 1933, the United States had a positive relationship with Saudi Arabia. And in 2001, when our country faced terrible attacks, the Saudi government extended its hand to join the United States in its war against terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, do we really want to upset this long-standing relationship just for a country that we've had no ties to for the past 30 years?
Ladies and gentlemen, my opponent has brought up two issues that I'd like to bring to the forefront. One, cheating, and the second one, global support. And understand why this is so important. For Iran to cheat, it has to build a lot more than just one building or a covert facility like Fordo. It would need a secret source for every single aspect of its program. No nation in history has been able to pull off such covert operations when subjected to such rigorous inspections. The Iran nuclear deal is the right deal for America. It's the right deal for the world. Now, in relation to global support, as Salah has pointed out, nations like Saudi Arabia and even our close friend and ally Israel does not support the Iran nuclear deal. But let's take a look at which members of those nations aren't supporting it. It's the politicians. In fact, Israel has two former leading intelligence agency leaders who support the Iranian deal. So we have the global support to include China, Japan, South Korea, and Russia, the nations that currently have sanctions on Iran, but will soon lift them if this deal is not agreed to.
While my opponent claims that there are strict monitoring systems in place to overlook Iranian activity, he fails to keep in mind that Iran will have the capability to create a nuclear weapon over time, because the deal itself will only take effect for a relatively short period of time of 15 years. What next? What about Iran's technical capabilities of maintaining a nuclear program? The deal would only strengthen Iran and its allies in the region militarily. The deal is extremely dangerous to our national security and is akin to declaring war on Sunni Arabs and Israel by the P5+1, because it ensures that the primary antagonist, Iran, will become a nuclear power and allow them to rearm conventionally. And finally, what about the billions of dollars we're giving them? How do we know that the country will not use the money to support militant organizations, and in particular, the Hezbollah, to spread atrocities? Iran has been labeled the #1 sponsor of terrorism worldwide, and if we comply to this deal, we too will become a part of Iran's vile mission to spread extremism.
In my closing statement, my opponent has pointed out that after 15 years, restrictions are lifted on Iran, and they will continue to engage with their nuclear assets with the goal of producing a weapon. But what he fails to acknowledge is that there's an indefinite agreement with Iran and the world on inspections. But first, let's take a look at what the alternative is. No one knows the price of this alternative like our men and women in uniform, and no one has paid that higher price. Before we ask our armed forces to strap up their boots and engage in another global conflict, we owe it to them and their families to use diplomatic means over military engagement. We've done this successfully before, and we're prepared to do it again. Look at the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the SALT Treaty, and the START Treaty. We built a coalition and held it together through sanctions and negotiations. And now we have before us a solution that prevents Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon without resorting to war. This is a verification deal, not one of trust. Let us look again at diplomacy instead of prematurely reacting with military force. I urge you to support the Iran nuclear deal.
My counterpart has vaguely addressed some of the concerns regarding the deal, but what he has failed to address is Iran's past reputation in regards to complying with international agreements. Iran has consistently obstructed good faith international efforts to cooperate on its nuclear program. And among other breaches of transparency and cooperation, Iran has repeatedly denied the International Atomic Energy Agency entry to its Parchin site, and it has missed crucial deadlines on international agreements regarding its nuclear program. Ladies and gentlemen, we have used diplomatic means and they have failed. Even the leader of their own country is constantly denouncing the United States as a great Satan, and their people are organizing rallies and chanting "Death to America," making it clear that Iran does not want to normalize relationships with us. We have used diplomatic means, but they have not worked. Now, it is our time to move forward and act with force.